Hey YouTube, hi Spotify, it's Kel, and I'm coming to you tonight with a very introductory lesson or distinction or education on both what is called sex and gender in our society. And there's obviously so many divergent paths we can take off of this subject, so I'm going to keep it very simple tonight. But one of the reasons why I wanted to do it is because I know a podcaster that I love and think is amazing when it comes to all kinds of knowledge, and yet that person was even like, I don't know the difference between, sex and gender. So I took a class on this. Maybe I swear it was at UC San Diego. I think it was called like sex, gender, and cultural norms or something like that, and variety or something. But had I not taken that class, I think I would be as confused. And there's a lot I can learn, don't get me wrong. We're going to get into in the future, there's called The Anima and the Animus by Carl Jung. That's a whole different subject, but it's related. But tonight we're just going to stick very briefly to the difference between what we call sex and what we call gender. Now, sex as a verb, as in intercourse, is a whole different subject. That's not what we're talking about tonight. But sex as in the adjective, what do you define yourself as biologically, is what we're going to talk about versus gender. So very quickly, when you have sex, a biological sex, when you are asking someone what their biological sex is, they will typically give you an answer, and it is a very, in my opinion, scientifically easy to identify or verify answer what your biological sex is. You were born either male with male parts, you were born a female with female parts, or you are what is called intersex, where you have actually both. So you can be, it's very, small amount of the population is actually born with both, but you can have both. So that's your biological sex, okay? Now, gender is when, this is what everybody needs to know, I think, that people do not understand about gender, is that it is a socially constructed norm based on each different society. And I remember learning in my class notes, kind of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I didn't understand that. Like, for instance, what is feminine in one society can be totally different than what is feminine in another society, and the same goes for masculinity. So I'm gonna give you an example. I don't have specific cultures. I can do that in the future or whatever. I'm sure you can just Google it and research. But in some societies in the past, it has been just as, quote, feminine for a woman to go fight or be in her what we consider to be masculine energy, whereas like in a different culture, it might be like men do the dishes and are more subservient. So there are commonalities between a lot of cultures that have a dominant, what we call feminine, and dominant masculine commonalities. So you could go upon that, but the point is that, and you can do your own research on this, women in some cultures have done things that we consider in America here to be masculine, and it yet was defined as feminine in those cultures. And the same goes for masculinity. In some cultures, some things that we define as masculine may be considered feminine in those cultures, but they were considered masculine in that culture. So the basic thing you want to really understand when you're identifying someone biologically as a certain sex, is, what is our biological sex? Then we're talking about biological sex. And then gender is a socially constructed norm based on each individual culture, and it is different and varying amongst all cultures. So obviously, someone who is transgender is different from someone who is transsexual. So someone who is transsexual has possibly alternated or like tried to alter their sexuality, whereas if they are transgender, they are just the opposite kind of tapping into the opposite gender of our society's norms. So I just wanted to make that very quick. My cats are going crazy because I'm not giving them attention. So I'm gonna actually go. But it's very, very, there's obviously a lot I'm oversimplifying here in this video, but we got to start there when it comes to an understanding of what is the difference between sex and gender. Baby. And what is the difference between sex and gender, and understand that gender is constructed, whereas sex is biological. And of course you can change both. You can tap into different, elements of both. If you are transgender or transsexual and you are transitioning into a different sex, that's a whole different thing as if you're transgender and you are actually, tapping into a different gender. There's different, baby. So I just wanted to describe these for everybody, and I hope that this is a very simple sex versus gender 101. What's the difference, and how to understand people a little bit more. And I will see you next time.